Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week.
And back at Husky Stadium, we're about to kick things off between the Tigers and the Huskies. LSU hoping to improve to 5-0 in season openers under Les Miles. Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. On paper, Coach, this looks like it should go all LSU's way, but it's not played on paper.
Mark, we really have no idea what to expect from Washington. They have a new coach, new systems on offense and defense, new uniforms. But as you know, with change comes hope. And it's a fresh start for everybody, and that's exactly what these Huskies need right now.
Here they come onto the field, and with hope comes maybe something symbolic, maybe even a little bit significant. That rainbow across the way, and you see T-shirts being worn by fans adorned all across campus that say, "Bark for Sark." That's one of the credos that they're going by here. There you see them. Many of those purple shirts, trying to reawaken the echoes of the past year. LSU winning the opening toss, deferring to the second half, and the Huskies will receive the opening kickoff.
You can't not tell from this crowd that Washington was an 0-12 football team last year, Mark. Last year doesn't matter anymore.
The slate's been wiped clean. They haven't won a football game since 2007, November. Meanwhile, back to receive this kick for the Huskies, it's Quentin Richardson, number 28 right there, and Jordan Polk, number 82. Huskies looking to put the demons of last year to bed permanently with a strong showing, and we're underway. That's Polk, and he's rocked right away, right around the 15-yard line, and that's where Jake Locker will take the reign to this Husky offense. He completed some 54% of his passes last season before suffering that season-ending wrist injury to his non-throwing hand. In fact, still maintains that he has about 15 pins in that thumb and wrist area. But he is as impressive looking an athlete and quarterback that you will see. The big question mark, Bob Davie, is how does he adjust to this new system? We'll find out. First down and 10. Chris Polk is the lone back, number 1. Locker on the play fake. And it's incomplete, falling harmlessly at the 35-yard line, and he was under a little bit of heat there. It'll be second down and 10. Good pressure up front by Harry Coleman.
See the confidence Steve Sarkisian has in Jake Locker. You also see the aggressive nature he has. I should have made you a bet that the first play of his new regime would be a pass now, because he is that kind of mindset.
Steve Sarkisian, the former quarterback coach, former quarterback at BYU. On the option, Polk gets the carry, breaks a tackle. And close to the first down, out near the 25-yard line. Woods making the stop on the play. Bob, who are the impact players?
Well, in 2007, Jake Locker was the Pacific 10 Freshman of the Year. Last year, as you mentioned, he missed it the entire season, basically. There's a different Washington team with him on the field. You just saw the second impact player, Chris Polk, started the first 2 games as a true freshman last year. He missed the rest of the season. And then Daniel Teo Nesham, the defensive end, plays as hard as any player in the country.
First down and 10. Polk behind Locker. Quick 3-step drop, fires a little bit high, and it was incomplete, intended for Devin Aguiar. It'll be second down and 10 coming up. And Bob, just how difficult do you think it'll be for Locker to get into a new system, new terminology?
After visiting with him yesterday, as you and I did, I really don't think it is going to be difficult at all. I think this is a special player right here, and I wouldn't be surprised in 2 years if this kid is a first-round draft choice in the NFL. I feel that strongly about his talent.
Second down and 10. Hand off to Polk. Right between the tackles and out near another first down, just shy of the 35-yard line, but there's a flag down on the play.
You see why Chris Polk came in last year and started the first 2 games of the year as a true freshman. Was injured, shoulder injury, actually granted a medical red shirt, so he is now a redshirt freshman with 4 years of eligibility.
How ironic that Steve Sarkisian actually recruited him to go to USC when Coach Sarkisian was there. 3rd and short coming up, and the Huskies look like they have their second first down of the ball game. Bob, how important is a good start for this Husky team under their new head coach?
Always key to get a good start, but Mark, you hit the nail on the head. The enthusiasm this crowd has right now, if they can play well early, that keeps the enthusiasm going all night long. This is an impressive start right here, led by Chris Polk, the running back.
Polk and Fogerson, Griffin, 3 tailbacks that we will probably see throughout the course of the evening. Here's the toss. This time Polk chopped down behind the line of scrimmage at the 33-yard line by Chris Hawkins. Hawkins coming up to provide run support from his cornerback spot. And Les Miles says that, Bob, he's really excited about his DBs, as he is most of his defense, albeit somewhat unproven.
I think he's really excited about the role LSU is in. I think he embraces the fact that LSU is not getting the attention that Florida, Alabama, and Ole Miss. You see him talking to John Chavis there, his new defensive coordinator who was at the University of Tennessee last year.
Second down and 12 coming up after that loss. Locker out of the shotgun. And incomplete. He delivered it on target. Intended for DeAndre Goodwin, but it was knocked loose by Patrick Patterson, the 6'1 sophomore out of Pompano Beach, Florida.
Well, Perry Riley, number 56, gave Jake Locker his wish. Remember yesterday, Jake Locker said, you know, I can't wait to get hit. It's been a whole year since I was hit. Well, I think Perry Riley just gave him that wish.
Just once, right? You don't have to endure too many of those. Locker now 0 for 3 passing. Fogerson in the backfield on 3rd down and long. 12 to go. A little heat off the corner. The pass complete. And another first down. Fogerson with room. .54 yards.
LSU with the all-out blitz. The defensive end, number 95, Livingston in coverage. What a way to start your career if you're Steve Sarkisian, but a great call. Caught him in an all-out blitz. Had to match up with the running back, Jory Ferguson, on the defensive lineman from LSU.
Here they come in an empty formation on 1st down from the 15. Flag down. They're going to whistle this one dead before the play. Flag down at the 16-yard line. Tiger defense on the field.
Part of the snap. False start. Number 79 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
There's a look at Sarkisian, and there's a look at the new defensive coordinator you alluded to a moment ago, John Chavis. 20 years in all at Tennessee. 15, Bob, as the team's defensive coordinator, but a brand new beginning for him, too.
And last year, that was the real problem of this LSU defense. Gave up more points per game than any other defense in the Southeastern Conference.
1st and 15 at the 20. Polk down to about the 17-yard line, stopped up by LeVar Edwards.
And you see Washington right there in a little bit of the spread offense look. Some of the side zone action that Jake Locker ran as a freshman. Steve Sarkisian, by contrast, at USC for 7 years, obviously a drop back scheme coordinator. So how they mesh that spread with the drop back, and you see right here Jake Locker in a no back empty formation.
Very good runner with that 4.4 40-yard speed. See how much he uses it tonight. Second down. Completes it. Touchdown, Johnson. You couldn't have scripted this one any better.
That Husky dog may have his bite back, Mark Jones.
And the extra point is good. They're excited about James Johnson, the true freshman, with his first career touchdown. Huskies starting to bark.
College football in high definition is presented by Vizio.
You know, one of the great things about being not only at the University of Washington, but the Pacific Northwest is the great culinary delights. It's all about the tailgating before the game.
Saturday Tailgate is brought to you by the Margaritaville Tailgating Grill, the only grill that lets you take the party with you wherever you go.
Saturday Night Tailgate is brought to you by Margaritaville Grill. Those guys are pretty jacked up on the sidelines. And Bob, emotionally, what does it do for the Huskies to come out this way?
Well, in the open, we talked about hope. We showed that rainbow. I've been in this stadium a bunch of times. Right now, there's about as much magic and the feeling of enthusiasm that I've ever seen in here.
Keelan Williams, meanwhile, on the kickoff return for LSU. Out to the 30-yard line, and that's where Jordan Jefferson, the 6'5", 220-pound sophomore, will take the reins of the Tiger offense. Get this, he turned 19 years old just a little over a week ago, the youngest regular season open quarterback in 25 years at LSU. And he walks into this.
This old house is rocking right now, Mark.
That's a pretty composed sophomore quarterback who just turned 19. A first down out to the 49-yard line. He picked up his age, 19 yards on the play.
And what a great call by Gary Croton, the offensive coordinator. You know you have a hyped-up, overreacting defense. Washington out there on the first play. They run a little quarterback, keep action, take advantage of their over-aggressiveness. Great call.
First down and 10 from the 49. Charles Scott with a gaping hole gets to the edge, and Charles Scott with another Tiger first down to the 31-yard line. Check out the starters at the top of your screen.
We've seen two impact players already. You mentioned Jordan Jefferson's only 19 years old, youngest quarterback in the SEC, but he is the biggest reason LSU is so optimistic. Had a great bowl game. Brandon LaFell, maybe the first receiver drafted in the NFL draft in April. And this guy, Charles Scott, at 240 pounds, you just saw him, he will flat run you over.
So far, the Tigers countering pretty well to that opening score on the opening drive by the Huskies. That was a 20-yard pickup on the last play by Scott. Here he is again, running between the tackles, this time brought down at the 28-yard line by E.J. Savannah. You see the defensive alignment by the Washington Huskies. Savannah, the weak side linebacker. Steve Sarkisian and his defensive coordinator, Nick Holt, excited about that linebacking core.
They are excited. They're a little bit thin in some other areas, but they think this linebacker core is really good.
Here's Scott again, down inside the 25 to the 24. And now we're back on campus, brought to you by the movie Sorority Row.
That is an unbelievable record right there, because you factor in a bunch of those wins are bowl games. But keep in mind, this is the longest trip LSU has ever made as a football program, 2,500 miles to come out here to the Northwest.
And they brought about 10,000 fans with them, too. On 3rd and 5, Jefferson complete for a first down. The poised sophomore drills one down to the 12 to Brandon LaFell.
This is going to be a tough matchup, not only for Washington, but everybody in college football. We're going to look at Brandon LaFell right here, one-on-one with Nate Williams, the safety. That is a tough assignment right there.
First down and 10. They go quick. Here's Scott trying to cut it back, but stopped at the 11-yard line. Number 8, Nate Williams making the stop.
And this is the real question. There's a lot of questions with the Washington football team, Mark, but the question to me is on defense. I think they have enough young talent on offense. On defense, I don't see that same kind of talent.
And Bob, going back to last year, statistically anyway, it's fair to say, it's not overstating to say, they may have had the worst defense in the country, well, statistically.
And not being sarcastic, as we take a look at Nick Holt right there, who came over from USC. On offense, they weren't much better statistically. You know, they were 117th in scoring offense. They were 116 in scoring defense. But keep in mind, that was without Jake Locker, and they had some young skill players injured on offense. On defense, to me, they just did not and still do not have the personnel.
ESPN kicks a college football doubleheader Labor Day. First at 4 Eastern is a battle of Big East rivals as the Cincinnati Bearcats take on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Then at 8 Eastern, we feature a Sunshine State rivalry. Miami Hurricanes, the U, face Bobby Bowden's Seminoles of Florida State for ACC bragging rights. College football presented by Cars.com and College Football Primetime on ESPN Monday. It's number 59, Darian Jones, who was shaken up. Starting defensive end for the Washington Huskies, 6'2" senior.
He is a fifth-year senior that's made quite an investment in this program. You hate to see a young guy hurt like that early in this game.
2nd down and 7 coming up. This is the Tigers' opening drive of the ball game, their first possession. Charles Scott gets the call, and he's going to be stopped up short of the first down inside the 10-yard line by Quentin Richardson, the most experienced cornerback that the Huskies have on defense. What do you think about both defenses so far, Bob?
Well, there hadn't been much defense so far, but there's been really good offense play selection. We've seen a lot of different offensive looks from both offensive coordinators.
On 3rd and 7 now. Jefferson working out of the shotgun. Little option into the boundary. Tosses it to Williams. And Williams going to be stopped up short of the first down.
And if there's ever a guy in college football that likes to gamble, it is Les Miles. They don't call him the Mad Hatter for nothing.
Oh, it's not because he just pulls that thing down low over his... Okay.
So they're going to measure here, but I know what he's thinking already. You know, he had a great quote when it comes to taking advantage of your talent and letting kids play. He said, if you have a bunch of playmakers, you have an obligation to turn them loose. And that's why you'll see him go for it a lot on 4th down. He's not afraid to come up with some gimmicks. And that's really a good combination when you have talent and also a coach that's wide open like that.
He may have been a little premature in saying he was short of the first down. He made it. 7:04 to go, and they keep the ball. There's the excitable Nick Holt. defensive coordinator who came with head coach Steve Sarkisian from USC.
One thing about the USC model, both these coaches coming from USC, it's about intensity and competitiveness. All you have to do is look at Steve Sarkisian and Nick Holt, and you see that model.
Hey, they're a little hyper, and it's not because of all the caffeine in the city of Seattle in the coffee shops, okay? We'll be back after this.
ESPN's College Football Primetime is presented by Hampton Hotels. At Hampton, we love having you here. And in part by Burger King, who remind you to have it your way.
Water everywhere here in the Seattle area. The key is staying afloat. And right now, the LSU offense doing just that. First and goal from the 3-yard line. Jefferson to pass. Knocked away and incomplete. No flag on the play. Victor Iowa knocks it away from Richard Dixon.
This was a great defensive effort right here. Victor Ayawa laying out Ed Dixon, the talented tight end from LSU. That was a great effort play.
Scott, the deep back out of the offset eye. Gets the handoff. Rolled off a one tackle and stopped up at the 2-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and goal. Nick Holt's defense coming up with a big play.
And Charles Scott told us he is not in the business of getting knocked back. Watch him get knocked back right here. That is one of the first times Aldridge and Donald Butler, you're not going to see this kid knocked back very often. I tell you, this crowd right now is electric.
And this defense really stout.
They talk about Southeastern Conference crowds. This is a Southeastern Conference crowd now.
Great start to this game, and a lot on tap from our point of view as well. Some special items right now. Jake Locker and Polk carrying the bulk of the offensive responsibilities. Chris Polk, a nice job on that opening drive. And coming up a little bit more ahead in the show, our new feature this year, Davy Jones Locker. A couple of interesting tidbits on the college football landscape to talk about. And coming up a little bit later, Steve Sarkisian had an interesting perspective on the Boise State game as he sat there and watched things unfold a couple of nights ago between Oregon and Boise State. We'll tell you about that as well. But right here at Husky Stadium, what a beginning for the Huskies.
It really is. And you talk about LSU, a clear favorite in this football game. But they traveled 2,500 miles. It's 9:30 kickoff on their clock back in Baton Rouge. And they're playing an 0-12 football team. But that was a football team that didn't have Jake Locker, didn't have Chris Polk, and didn't have the energy of this stadium last year that you have to deal with now.
Potentially a signature moment for the Husky defense here. 3rd and goal. And a little bit of motion on that left side of the offensive line by LSU. That's Saron Black, their leader up front, the starting left tackle. How does that change what you do now offensively, if at all?
Totally. Because I would presume Les Miles had 2 downs. He would have gone for it on 4th down to run the football in. Now you put the ball in the hands of the quarterback, Jordan Jefferson, to make a play.
3rd and goal back at about the 7-yard line. Jefferson working out of the shotgun. It's incomplete. And no flags on the play. He was working against Bonzel McDowell. That was Terrence Tolliver, the junior. And Josh Jasper will come in to attempt the field goal.
You ask me how big is that false start penalty? That false start penalty was huge right there.
Celebrating its 5th year sponsoring the Good Hands Field Goal Nets, Allstate makes contributions to participating universities' general scholarship funds for each field goal and extra point kick. To date, Allstate has contributed $1.8 million in scholarship monies, and that kick was money, all right, from 24 yards out. But look at the reaction from Sarkisian. He say it may be 3, but it's a win for us. Back under the lights at Husky Stadium, I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie on this a very compelling opening weekend of college football, and this game here following the same type of format in Steve Sarkisian's first game as head coach of the Washington Huskies. And Jake Locker right there a moment ago on the screen, his first game back after missing 2/3 of last season because of a thumb injury. And the Huskies off to a great start.
Excuse me, Mark, this is a beautiful setting for college football, isn't it? Yeah. One of the most unique places in the country. And
I'm disappointed he didn't send the boat for me this morning. Send me that little dinghy and a rubber duck, huh?
But with this location, this fan base, and this tradition at Washington, you feel the energy. I mean, this program can make a dramatic comeback.
Down to the 9-yard line. It's fielded by Polk. Let's take a look back with our Sears Drive recap. And the opening drive was a pretty good one by the Huskies.
Chris Polk started it off with 2 great runs. And the play selection, great job by Steve Sarkisian, catches LSU in the all-out blitz. Joey Ferguson down the sideline, and then the touchdown out of the no-back empty set to the true freshman James Johnson. A great job of scripting that first drive by Steve Sarkisian. They gave them a lot of looks.
Locker had 68 of the 85 yards on that drive passing. Quick 3-step drop, tipped up and picked off. And this could be trouble. Kutera, touchdown Tigers. Jacob Kutera took it back 29 yards on the pick 6.
Obviously, the ball should not have been thrown. Tremendous athletic play by Jake Kutera. The linebacker tips it to himself and scores. But you see the repercussions of Jake Locker. It's been a long time since he's played in a football game, Mark. That was a poor decision.
Extra point good, and LSU in a blink, Bob Davie takes a 3-point lead on that interception, the second interception of his career.
A good start for John Chavis, the new defensive coordinator at LSU. That was a big series for them after Washington had taken the first drive and drove the length of the field for a touchdown.
Taking a look at things from the other side. Chavis is now after 15 years at Tennessee, and Jake Locker, remember, there might be a little bit of rust still falling off of his game, Bob. It's one thing to practice for several months, but when you're facing live fire the way you are tonight against an opponent the quality of LSU, it can be different.
You're exactly right. One thing you know, this is a positive coaching staff. That's one of the things Steve Sarkisian has really, really emphasized. One play at a time.
Steve Sarkisian noticed that when he first took over, the self-esteem of this team on the whole wasn't the greatest. Their posture, the clothes that they wore, none of it indicated that they were proud Washington Huskies. So he's begun already in earnest to change that culture. And every little thing is designed to get them the feeling of success. Here's Jordan Polk. Now let's check in with Reese Davis back in the studio. Reese?
All right, Mark, Taco Bell studio update. Alabama, Virginia Tech has been a slugfest on ABC all night. Virginia Tech up by 1. Greg McElroy going up top to Marquise Mays. Gets it inside the Hokie 10. Next play, Mark Ingram scores. Alabama up 24-17, and they just recovered a fumble on the ensuing kickoff.
All right, Reese, and Alabama taking the lead. That's going to be LSU's opponents this year. get them on the road, I believe. Chris Polk in the backfield gets the call. Polk trying to bounce it outside, gets the edge. Chris Polk with one guy to beat, and the turbo didn't quite kick in. All the way down, though, to the 23-yard line. Danny McCray finally hauling him down.
Boy, you can see why this guy was highly recruited. The speed he shows, Mark, to break it to the outside right there. You know, had a slight concussion in training camp. We mentioned he missed all of last season because of a shoulder injury. But the coaches told us yesterday they think this can be a big-time tailback.
Yes, said he won the job over the other candidates because of his consistency and his talent, among other things. After that 33-yard run, it's 1st and 10. Fogerson this time on the carry picks up a little over a yard. Down to the 38-yard line.
So important for Washington to be able to take the pressure off of Jake Locker. You know, he is the hope. He is the face of this franchise. So many expectations with him back. After that interception, to be able to come out and run the football a little bit, to let the quarterback settle down.
Locker, a Husky through and through. Aguilar, and there's a flag down at the 38-yard line. Aguilar brought down at about the 27. There's a flag down, though. Let's see what this is all about.
I think we're going to get a block in the back on DeAndre Goodman, number 11.
Steve Sarkisian told us, Bob, before the game in our meetings that he was not all that surprised by the talent level of the skill positions. Guys like Aguilar, guys like Polk.
Really surprised.
On the offense, number 11. 10-yard penalty.
Was the word he used. Tyrone Willingham and his staff had done an excellent job recruiting young talent on offense at wide receiver, tailback. They have a young tight end. It could be a superstar. And Steve Sarkisian acknowledged that. But they are a talented football team on offense at the skill positions.
4:26 to go in the first quarter. LSU on that interception by Jacob Katera a few moments ago returned it for a touchdown to take the lead.
Really spreading the LSU defense out with a no-back set.
And now we see what Jake Locker really does as a strength. He takes off with it, brought down at the 44-yard line, picked up 3 before Kelvin Shepard made the stop on the play. Bob, how do you balance things off between running for as many yards as he did a couple of years ago, almost 1,000 yards, and getting into this new passing system?
I think that's the key point. You're not going to see a lot of predetermined quarterback runs like you do out of the spread. But they are not going to keep him from taking off and running with that football. And that's why you see a lot of these spread formations to try to spread LSU out. And if there's a crack in there, he will take off and run. They will not discourage him from that.
Walker given time, completes it. Aguilar down to the 27-yard line, and that's a first down for the Huskies. Peterson making the stop. And a 17-yard gain on the play.
LSU in zone coverage. Watch Jake Locker thread the needle. Great job of getting that football over the defensive lineman Livingston, number 95. Look at that. That is a great throw through a very small window right there.
Talked about Locker earlier. Grew up in a small town about an hour and a half from Seattle, right near the Canadian border. Always dreamed of playing for the Huskies. Little bootleg action, the pass complete, and a nice open field tackle on Curse by Patrick Patterson. A pickup of 3 on the play. He's second down at about 7. We're here at Husky Stadium. It's the SEC against the Pac-10. LSU against Washington. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie as Les Miles' team tries to go 5-0 in regular season openers. And they are faced with a pretty daunting task here. Steve Sarkisian, the first-year head coach of the Washington Huskies, making his coaching debut at home against a tough opponent.
Excellent job of play calling to this point in the game, Mark.
There's Locker. Wide open, but tackled immediately at the 17-yard line by Patterson. Once again, that's James Johnson.
And that is 2 big-time plays in a row by Patrick Peterson, the corner. Big physical corner, was a parade All-American out of Pompano, Ely, Florida. Les Miles told us before the game, this kid will be a first-round draft choice.
Maybe not the only one down the road, huh?
What did he say? He thinks 3 of the 4 in the secondary. But how about the play calling and the diversity by Steve Sarkisian and the bounce back ability of Jake Locker after that interception?
Looking pretty poised. First down and 10. Locker, great job of improvising, completing the pass to the 7-yard line.
If he was left-handed and wearing orange and blue and knew the Gator chomp, is that Tim Tebow?
Could be.
You know, when we met him yesterday,
he's a Brett Favre guy too, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Brett Favre, Tim Tebow, 230 pounds, runs about 4.44. They're going to replay this to see if he was down.
Talked about the improvisational skills of Jake Locker. You saw them a few moments ago. A history major, a history buff, rooms with a couple of his offensive linemen. And able to make something out of nothing on this play. Well, he might have been down. That right knee may have hit first, Bob.
Mark, I think you're right.
Raheem Allen.
Yeah, he's down. I would say he's down. We'll slow it down right here. He is down before that football comes out. That ball will be spotted right there. Steve Sarkisian is so excited about Jake Locker. He said, really, this is a 2-year race to get him to the NFL. He said the only difference between Carson Palmer, Leinart, Sanchez that he had at USC and Jake Locker, those guys were trained since the 6th grade to be drop-back quarterbacks. Yeah. That is the only difference. He really believes this kid can be a first-round draft choice if he stays healthy and progresses after 2 years in this system.
They rave about his physical gifts at 6'3", 226 pounds. And I mentioned it before, 4.4 speed in the 40-yard dash.
And that's electronic time. And let's talk about this. I mean, we forget about it sometime, but 12 pins in his thumb. He showed us that scar yesterday. 7 pins still in. At one point, there was a plate in his hand, in his thumb. It was actually
protruding from the skin.
Protruding through the skin. So they had to go back in and take it out.
But he would just push it back in the meantime.
Let's take a definitive look right here. I think the knee is definitely down right there before the football comes out.
You would think they're going to bring this one back.
This is a Pac-10 crew, and obviously a Pac-10 replay crew. And that's part of the decision when you sign the contract. Whether the Southeastern Conference officials are going to come out here when you play or it'll be Pac-10. That's really negotiable when the teams sign these contracts. And interestingly, this game came up.
It was a fill-in, right?
3 years ago, and the president at Washington, Mark Emmert, was the chancellor at LSU. He hired Nick Saban, and the athletic director, Scott Woodward, here at Washington, is a graduate of LSU and from Baton Rouge. I don't know why they're taking so much time right now.
Might be trying to figure out what yard line Jake Locker's knee hit at so they would know where to spot the ball. In the meantime, how can you yawn with all that's going on?
That's an extended yawn too. You know, when you play these
late night
games there's a bunch of extracurricular activities.
Michael Batlin, a native of Oregon. We're going to move this ball back to about the 17, it looks like. But what about Coach Sarkisian telling us about how he has started to really resurrect the successful history and the lineage that they've had here? When you talk about the great players that have been here, Warren Moon, Spider Gaines, and Heatman, all the way back to the national championship in the early 90s that they had. The guys have to be taught that. Second down and 11. It's Polk. Good straight arm. And close to a first down at about the 7-yard line. Put a straight arm on McCray.
Yeah, not only is he fast, you mentioned it, a great job of stiff arming right there. And you can see why Tyrone Willingham last year was sick. When they lost Jake Locker and they also lost Chris Polk. Look at that stiff arm right there on Harry Coleman.
He got it on both guys. 12-yard pickup. First and goal. Polk again, but this time nowhere to go. And there might have been a fumble. LSU says there's a loose ball, and they've got it. Polk fumbled it, and the Tigers come up with the turnover on their own 4. That is a momentum killer for the Huskies. Patrick Peterson recovering the loose ball.
Yeah, Mark, 2 huge turnovers in this football game by the Huskies. Here it is again. Yeah, on the exchange, the ball actually came out. It was loose. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, never had possession of that ball on the exchange. It looked like 95. Livingston was in the backfield and knocked that football out at the exchange.
Brendan Holiday in the ball game, but the give is to Scott. On first down, he picks up a couple of yards. Charles Scott, we saw him a little bit earlier and breaking tackles down in the red zone. Told me recently that he likes to watch old videotape of the late Walter Payton, the way that he would run through people.
This guy does it with about 40 more pounds than Walter did with
Charles Scott and Keelan Williams, a couple of talented tailbacks, but so far facing a daunting task against a very determined Husky team. Despite the turnovers, Washington still in the game. The city of Seattle aglow at night, and why not? Back under the lights at Husky Stadium for the start of the second quarter. LSU leading Washington 10-7. The Huskies, right before the end of the first period, fumbled it while they were close to going in for a score. Keelan Williams, the deep back, out of the eye. Jefferson passing out of his end zone, barely got it off and almost intercepted. Pressure applied by that Husky defense, number 66, Daniel Tionesum.
Steve Sarkisian told us yesterday that Daniel Tionesum plays as hard as any player he's ever seen, including those guys that he played with, coached at SC.
Arguably the best player defensively for the Huskies. Jefferson incomplete, and the Tigers will have to punt in the shadows of their own goalposts. Intended for Keelan Williams. And it's a 3-and-out for LSU.
And Washington just dominating this football game right now from the standpoint of total yards. 169 total yards for Washington and 69 for LSU. But the 2 big turnovers by the Huskies.
Fulgerson back to get this punt. Elton gets off one that'll bounce, fielded on the run. Fulgerson with a nice return. Inside the 20. Let's go back to Reese Davis in the studio.
All right, Mark, just when it looked like Alabama had stretched it out against Virginia Tech, here come the Hokies. Ryan Williams taking over as the starter for the injured Darren Evans, and he goes into the end zone. They looked at it, ball crossed the plane in the air, 27-24. Alabama has the lead.
A great way to wind it down there. Plenty of football to go. Virginia Tech and Alabama right here. There was a flag down. Still haven't said exactly what the infraction was. Spot the ball at the 24-yard line.
And we've again the empty no back set, spreading out the LSU defense.
There's Locker out of the shotgun. Looked like he wisely threw it away that time. Pass intended for Willie Green. It'll be 2nd down and 10 coming up. But that's a lot on Steve Sarkisian's plate. First-year head coach, and he's calling plays too as the head coach.
That's what he does best. That's why he is the head coach at Washington, because he did a tremendous job at USC calling the offense and really following the Pete Carroll model again at USC. I mean, Pete Carroll really early on was truly the defensive coordinator at USC, and he let Norm Chow run the offense. So he's done the exact opposite. He's the offensive coordinator. Nick Holt runs the defense.
Walker showing his mobility. A lot of contact down there. No flag on the play at the 10-yard line. Chad Jones jostling with James Johnson, the true freshman. And it's 3rd down and 10 coming up. Chad Jones, one of the leaders in that secondary. And yeah, the Husky fans are looking for a call.
And I think they have a right, but I'm not sure the ball was not uncatchable. But let's take a look at it. Yeah, that's pass interference. He knocked him down before he did. I mean, that football could be deemed catchable right there. That should have been pass interference on Chad Jones.
Ferguson down to the 15-yard line. Make that Willie Griffin on the carry. Brought down by Chad Jones. So 4th down coming up. What looked like a promising beginning to a drive after they got it deep in Tiger territory. Now the field goal unit coming in, led by Eric Folk.
He's had some injuries in camp and has been a little bit inconsistent. I'm talking about Eric Folk, the field goal kicker here.
This one from 34 yards out.
There you go.
He knocks it through to tie the game at 10 apiece. Just underway here in the 2nd quarter. So many great places to visit in and around the city of Seattle, including Pike Place Market. Man, you talk about a filet job, Bob. That's some salmon that goes quick. Now that I've lost you on the chicken wing circuit, I guess you'll be going healthy on me with some salmon. You know, it has a lot of, what is it, omega fatty acids, good for the, you know, good for the digestive system. It's a good fat.
I'm impressed by the way that got carved that up. There it is.
Well, Washington was carving up that LSU defense for a while, but a couple of miscues. This might be a different story right now. Instead, it's tied at 10-10. A short kickoff. Fumbled at the 26. Here's Trendon Holiday, who's very dangerous with that world-class speed. Won the NCAA Outdoor 100-meter championship earlier this year. And here's what's happening now. The 2 miscues by Washington, and they very well could have a touchdown lead or bigger. Coming up ahead, a look at Davy Jones-Locker. A couple of interesting nuggets from around college football involving this game. And coming up later, a classic 20-hour rule. Talking about the implications of that. Trindon Holiday in the backfield now. He's been converted from wide receiver to a running back this season. We'll see how this experiment works. Jefferson running the option with Holiday, keeps it himself. I'm not sure that you want your quarterback taking those kind of hits, but let's check in with SportsCenter right now.
All right, Mark, some racing news for you. According to Tony Stewart, it is all but certain that Danica Patrick will race in NASCAR in 2010, primarily nationwide and truck series. She still will drive Indy cars. That, again, according to Tony Stewart. Football, Sam Bradford, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, sprained AC joint. Typically, you miss 2 to 4 weeks with that type of injury. Next, SportsCenter follows the game and precedes college football final and is airing on ESPN News currently.
All right, thanks a lot, Reese. We got a new quarterback in the ball game. Jarrett Lee is in. He started 8 games a season ago. Completes the swing pass to Trindon Holiday. Couldn't use the speed in the open field that time. Brought down immediately by Aiwa. Right at the 43-yard line.
Take a look at Jordan Jefferson. Took a pretty good hit on that last option. Let's go back and take a look at that. Pretty good lick right there by the corner.
Jordan Jefferson, as I mentioned, just turned 19 10 days ago. And yeah, you question the wisdom of your quarterback putting his hat down and taking on a bunch of players on a consistent basis. Meanwhile, a personal foul called a moment ago against the Huskies, so they will move the ball all the way down to the 38-yard line of Washington. First down and 10. Jefferson back in the ball game. Charles Scott in the backfield beside Jefferson. Scott on the handoff, met and broke a tackle. Diving forward across the 35. Well, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series heads back to south actually for Labor Day weekend. Only 2 races remain for Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, and Mark Martin to get off the bubble and into the chase. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta. Coverage begins 7 Eastern Sunday on ESPN with NASCAR Countdown. Telecast presented by Pennzoil. Jefferson, quick 3-step drop, and it's left on the carpet. And there's a late flag down on the play. It was dropped by Terrence Tolliver.
Yeah, we're going to get a late hit on the quarterback. Really a silly personal foul right there by the corner coming on the blitz. We're going to see it right here. Clearly a late hit by Vonzell McDowell, and he actually kind of launched himself, which is close to being considered a flagrant foul, which the NCAA is really trying to clamp down on with possible ejections.
Yeah, that's a point of emphasis along with the helmet-to-helmet contact. So the ball now inside the 25 at the 24.
A lot of offense in this football game.
Yeah. Jefferson hands it off to Scott. Might have checked into that, and Scott
The football came out.
2 yards. It's loose. Huskies say they have it.
That's out. That looks like Washington's football, Mark. I think that football came out.
It's going to stay LSU Tiger football.
Let's take a look at that again. I thought that football came out before Charles Scott hit the ground. Mason Foster, number 40, came in and jarred that football out. That ball's out. His knee never hit the ground.
With that, we take a break. 10's on the scoreboard in Steve Sarkisian's coaching debut.
News on Duncan.
Back at Husky Stadium. Welcome back, everyone, to College Football Primetime and Sporting Goods Kickoff Week. And what a week it's been. Opening one of college football. They're reviewing this play on the fumble, perhaps, by Charles Scott of LSU.
Yeah, if you look right there, he's never down. Now there you can't tell exactly when Mason Foster knocked that football out.
It was determined that the player fumbled the ball prior to the game.
It's going to be Husky football, first down and 10. LSU with its first turnover of the ball game.
And Charles Scott, coming into this game, Mark, had 308 carries with only one fumble in his career at LSU. So we've seen him knock back once tonight, and we've seen him fumble. And that does not happen very often to Charles Scott.
Times are changing tonight. Chris Polk in the backfield. First down and 10 for Washington.
Oh.
And Polk got drilled right away. Off the corner, Harry Coleman rocked him. 6-foot senior with a big hit. Listen up.
And John Chavis loves Harry Coleman. He was a defensive back last year. Now he's a hybrid linebacker, kind of like the guys John Chavis played with at University of Tennessee. Those smaller, undersized linebackers. Started 13 games at strong safety last year, moved to linebacker.
After the loss, it's second down and 14. Locker hands it off to Polk again. Finds a nice seam across the right side. Picks up about 5 on the play. And let's go back to Reese in the studio.
Mark, check in again on Alabama and Virginia Tech. After the Hokies had cut the lead to 3, Alabama drove right back down the field. Greg McElroy to Mark Ingram, who's rushed for 150 yards on the night, catches the touchdown pass, and the Crimson Tide with a 34-24 lead, and they just took over on downs as Virginia Tech was desperately trying to rally. Cal is hammering Maryland 31-6 at the half.
All right, Reese. The ACC team's taking a hit right now. That pass complete to the true freshman James Johnson, 6 feet, 193 pounds. Had a great camp and really impressed the coaching staff, and close to that first down. Looks like he may have gotten it.
Great pass protection by Washington picking up that blitz. Great arm strength by Jake Locker, and you mentioned it, the highly recruited freshman out of San Diego has really been impressive so far in this football game.
I think Steve Sarkisian kept the names of the coaches in Southern California in the Rolodex before he came up.
Well, put it this way, they signed 18 players last year. Only 2 were from the state of Washington. Southern California will be a key recruiting area for the Huskies.
Got a little bit of reach. Sam Locker reaching to Polk on the handoff, and it's going to be brought down right around the line of scrimmage for no gain. Al Woods and Charles Alexander making the stop on the play. And Bob, so far, we saw the LSU defensive linemen on the field before the game. They win a lot of beauty contests for the way they look in their uniforms. What do you think about the way they've performed so far, the guys up front? It's one of the question marks coming in.
I'm surprised, quite honestly, that Washington has been able to run the football as successfully as they've been able to run it. I mean, Washington has close to 200 yards total offense right now early in the second quarter.
Second and 10, Locker. To try and take off, Jake Locker runs out of bounds at about the 33. Drake Nevis runs him out of bounds, but Locker using his wheels to pick up about 5 on the play.
And really the sad thing of the injury, not to go back to last year for Jake Locker, he hurt his thumb blocking on a reverse against Stanford. Take a look at John Chavis, the defensive coordinator. Last year LSU had co-coordinators. Didn't work out. I love the decision to go back to one voice, one leader. A lot of pressure on John Chavis at LSU, though.
Washington 4 out of 5 on 3rd downs, trying to convert here. The pass complete, and that looks good enough for the first down by James Johnson. Well, we told you that the Tiger defense, pretty imposing looking athletes, Bob. They step off the bus, and they'll win some contests coming out, walking through the airports and on the field.
That's why LSU has always been such an attractive place for coaches. You know, even when you coach on the opposing sidelines, as I did many times at Texas A&M and Notre Dame against LSU, you can't help but look out there at those athletes LSU has, and in Tiger Stadium. And that's a big reason why John Chavis considered himself very fortunate to end up at LSU.
Getting a real good view from the other side. Johnson, after that catch, is 4th. And that pass complete out to the 43-yard line to the backup tight end, Cavario Middleton.
This is another young, talented player, Cavario Middleton. #1 high school player in the state of Washington 2 years ago. Parade All-American, great ball skills, great talent. Another indication that that cupboard wasn't bare in this Husky program.
Jake Locker playing this game after missing 2/3 of last season because of that thumb injury.
Again,
so 8 of 14.
I'm sorry, Mark, I don't mean to interrupt you. Again, the empty formation. You see the linebacker Katera out there lined up on the wide receiver.
And a flag down on the play.
Prior to the snap, false start. 71 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Cody Havin moving a little bit early.
You see the plan. Spread LSU out. If the linebackers spread out and they play zone coverage, you have linebackers matched up on wide receivers. Plus Jake Locker can take off and run. I wouldn't be surprised if LSU starts playing a little more man-to-man and blitzes this no-back stuff of Washington when they spread out. Don't spread out with them.
Locker on the pitch. Holt. And it's tough to outrun those guys defensively at LSU. Coleman making the stop. Picked up of about 2 on the play.
Again, you have to be impressed with how multiple Washington is offensively and really the way they've executed. I mean, Locker with the interception, they had to fumble by Polk. But, I mean, they have executed at an extremely high level, much better than either offense we saw Thursday night with Boise State and Oregon, who had been in the system for years.
Jake Locker proving to be a quick learner right now. Polk in the backfield on 3rd and long, 9 to go. Got to get to the 49 for a first down. Locker pulls the trigger complete. And a first down at the 46-yard line to Cavario Middleton, his 2nd catch. A 14-yard gain on the play. Here at Husky Stadium, Steve Sarkisian bringing ample hope to a program that has lost 14 consecutive games, looking for their first win since November 2007. But it's not going to be easy against LSU, one of the top teams in the country out of the SEC. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie, and it's 1st down and 10 for Washington. Locker escapes and had his pass batted at the line of scrimmage by Lazarius Levingston.
LSU playing a lot of zone coverage right now. Let's go back and look at this last play. First, look how deep these safeties are, but watch the tight end come down the field, run a little hook route right here against zone. Right there, the deep drop by the linebacker. I look for LSU to start snugging up, playing tighter coverage on Washington. I mean, Jake Locker will pick you apart in zone coverage now.
Putting up some pretty good numbers so far. About 5.5 minutes to go in the first half.
Here they come.
There's that fly sweep. That's going to be a loss back to the 49-yard line. Number 56, Perry Riley, making the stop on Jordan Polk. A loss of 3 on the play.
You mentioned the speed of this LSU defense. Perry Riley, number 56. High school teammate of the other linebacker, Kelvin Shepard, back in Georgia in high school. But this kid can really run. 6'1", 240, MVP of the Chick-fil-A Bowl against Georgia Tech.
Five minutes to go, first half. 3rd and long. They were able to convert the last time on 3rd and 9. Complete, but short of the first down at the 41-yard line to DeAndre Goodwin, who was hit immediately by Patrick Peterson, who's had a pretty good day in the secondary for LSU, the sophomore out of Pompano Beach, Florida. And it's 4th down coming up.
You don't find those 6'1", 210-pound corners that can break on the football like Patrick Peterson very often. That was a big stop right there by the LSU defense. They didn't really stop them, but they slowed them down.
Chad Jones is standing at his own 10-yard line to get this punt from Will Mahan.
He's a true freshman punter. First punt.
There's a flag down on the play as he booms it out of the back of the end zone.
Kicked that one to British Columbia. That freshman wasn't going to take any chances. Pooch punt, I promise you.
Steve Sarkisian did tell us that they're going to try a lot of directional punting with the freshman. Not sure that one was part of the plan. Meanwhile, there's a flag back at the 40-yard line.
I think Les Miles will decline that penalty, go and take that football at the 20-yard line.
Illegal formation by the offense. 5 players were in the backfield. The defense is elected to have that penalty, which is 5 yards, tacked onto the 20-yard line, 1st and 10.
Still tied at 10 under the lights at Husky Stadium. We'll be back after this. Well, ESPN kicks a college football doubleheader Labor Day. First at 4 Eastern. It's a big battle of Big East rivals as Cincinnati takes on Rutgers. Then at 8, we feature Miami, Florida State for ACC bragging rights. College football presented by Cars.com and college football primetime on ESPN Monday.
Interesting how the times have changed in the state of Florida.
You think?
Miami, Florida State on a Monday night. Wasn't too long ago the whole country would be buzzing about that. But they're buzzing about those Florida Gators right now in that part of the country.
First down and 10.
They need to get the football to number 1, Brandon LaFell, and see what he can do at the top, Mark.
They hand it off and run between the tackles. That's Keelan Williams, backup tailback. Charles Scott fumbled on the last possession. Pickup of 2 on the play.
I think the real matchup where LSU has the advantage is their wide receivers against the Washington defensive backs. I don't think there's a guy in this program that can really handle Brandon LaFell, number 1, but he's not touched a football yet. LSU needs to go ahead and throw that football down the field a little bit and challenge these DBs.
Jefferson, meanwhile, 1 of 5 passing, going to take off this time. Didn't take a big hit like he did last time he ran, and pushed out of bounds by Desmond Trufant, picking up 7 on the play. We've already seen a couple of strange happenings by Charles Scott, right, Bob?
Yeah, 2 things. One, we've done a lot of LSU games. I've never seen him knock back. Now, he didn't get crushed right there. The other thing, he does not fumble the football. We mentioned 308 carries, only 1 fumble coming into this football game. But you know what? LSU's never traveled 2,500 miles to Seattle either. A lot of strange things can happen out here.
Jefferson hands it off. And that's going to be more than enough for the first down. Charles Scott not pushed back that time. Picked up 4 for the first down. And Bob, you talked about it. One of the unique skills he has that the coaching staff talks about is his power and his yards after contact.
Yeah, just watch him. I mean, that's a 240-pound man. And surprises you with the long runs he's at.
1st and 10 for the Tigers. Jefferson hands it off to Keelan Williams. And Williams is out near another 1st down at about the 48-yard line. Close to 10 yards. Mason Foster making the stop for the Huskies.
Yeah, the depth LSU has at tailback. You know, they're going to play 4 tailbacks. Keelan Williams a little bit quicker feet, but he's 230 pounds.
2nd and 1. Jefferson completes his 2nd pass of the night across the 45-yard line to Keelan Williams. This time showing his receiving skills, picks up 8.
Yeah, I mentioned Brandon LaFell, number 1, 6'3", 209, the wide receiver. You have Terrence Tolliver, a big, tall receiver, Ruben Randall, and we've not seen Russell Shepard, the true freshman that everybody's been talking about for LSU.
Pass incomplete, intended for Richard Dixon. Let's go back to Reese in the studio.
All right, Mark, coming up at halftime, Sam Bradford suffers an injury, Oklahoma Falls. We'll talk about what that means for the Sooners going forward and what it means for BYU as they try to do that BCS busting thing. Alabama, Virginia Tech, a slugfest in the Georgia Dome. We'll show you the highlights. A lot more offense than you might have anticipated. And Andy Roddick surprised at the U.S. Open. Mark and Lou are still here. We'll see you in a bit.
And a surprise here. Touchdown Tolliver, Reese. Terrence Tolliver goes 45 yards on the missed tackle by Greg Walker.
And that was really a blown coverage right there. We took a look right there at Nick Holt. But we mentioned these LSU wide receivers. I mean, Terrence Tolliver, this kid will be a star. 6'5", 194 pounds, out of Hempstead, Texas. Right down the road from Texas A&M.
The extra point good, and boy, that is a real momentum changer going into the locker room at halftime. LSU taking a 7-point lead on that last touchdown reception by Terrence Tolliver, his 5th of his career.
I want you to look when Terrence Tolliver catches this football. Look at the space in here. Obviously a blown coverage by Washington, and then he makes the free safety miss with a great juke move on Greg Walker. But a huge cavern in there against the zone blitz.
You know, and speaking with wide receivers coach T.J. McCarthy of the Tigers before the game, boy, he really excited about the talent that he has. Boy, coaching defense isn't easy, Bob. I can understand why you're beside me right now. A 7-play, 80-yard drive, and here's the kick down to the 2-yard line. A flag down on the play, and this one might just come back. Quentin Richardson on the kickoff return. Well, some of you may know that Davy Jones Locker is an idiom for the bottom of the sea and a resting place for things lost at sea on the banks of Lake Washington. Bob and I dug deep and found something interesting in the fact that we're dealing with some interesting sideline defensive personnel.
Well, Mark, there's been 3 NFL coordinators fired before the start of the regular season. Now, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon in college football, but I think tonight is a great example of how high-profile college coordinators have become. I mean, both John Chavis and Nick Holt are really the head coaches of the defense. Both of them were really recruited by the head coach to come. Both paid really high salaries. Both have the freedom to do it the way they want to do it. But as we know, with those high salaries comes high expectations. So both those guys, great jobs, but in some ways on the hot seat.
Especially when you consider the scrutiny that they've both come under. Hey, Coach Holt leaving USC, where he's got all kinds of talent to deal with, and coming to a rebuilding situation. Why?
Number one, when you get to know him, the opportunity of the challenge. Let's not minimize the salary they paid him to come. It's a great package. But also, when the head coach is the defensive coordinator like Pete Carroll, that's a different dynamic.
Walker takes off himself to the 25-yard line. Al Woods. Is it total autonomy for a coach like Holt?
It is, no question. He would have not left USC to do it. John Chavis has the same kind of situation. You can do it the way you want to do it, but it better work. And I think that's the way to do it. I think for years there's been too big of a gap between the head coach's salary and, for, say, the defensive coordinator, if he's really the head coach of the defense.
Well, right now, both defensive coordinators under the gun. 17-10, Tigers with the lead when we come back.
From jet travel to software to medicine, this place has given the world some big ideas. A lot of that has to do with this place. Over the past 150 years, the University of Washington has fostered one of the most creative cultures in history. And today, it's where a new generation of leaders, thinkers, and doers are changing the world again. If you have talent, curiosity, and desire, discover what's next. It's the Washington way.
Look at the ever demonstrative defensive coordinator of Washington, Nick Holt. You know, the best thing about being in Seattle, they don't face the same kind of commute they did in Los Angeles to the job.
You're right.
Between the tackles.
But you know the tough thing?
What's that?
I'll do a little commuting if I have Ray Maualuga when I get to the office waiting on me as a linebacker.
Things moving pretty smoothly on I-5 tonight. Not sure if that's northbound or southbound, but as we mentioned, this is really one of the great venues for college football in the country.
You have to be impressed with the LSU fans. They have taken over downtown Seattle now. Same colors as Washington, but a totally different accent, huh? I mean, when they say go Tigers now.
We've seen a lot of purple downtown and throughout the city. And, you know, earlier Bob talked about Davy Jones' locker and the coordinators situation. Well, when we get back to Davy Jones' locker, our segment, my part of the equation, Bob, we have Jake Locker as part of Davy Jones' locker. Great play on words. It's a once-in-a-lifetime deal, folks. It's not often that you have a situation where a quarterback like this comes back, and he came back a much trimmed down, almost did the slim fast thing, lost about 15 pounds, talked to us about it yesterday, said that he didn't want to look like a linebacker anymore, and he maintains a lot more flexibility, not doing a lot of bench press. And you've seen situations like this before where it's really affected quarterbacks as Ferguson runs up to the 34. You've seen it before with a certain Brady Quinn, right?
Yeah, I think the same thing with Brady Quinn. You know, some of those guys, particularly that have those great bodies like Brady Quinn and Jake Locker, start to take it a little too serious. And they don't allow him to bench press anymore. So the bench press thing's all done for Jake Locker.
Locker out of the shotgun. Going up top on this one, and the catch made. Aguilar down to the 21-yard line. Got in behind Jai Eugene. Well, he certainly looked a lot more nimble, Bob, on that pass.
You're right. If he bench pressed 450, he may not have been able to make that throw, right? But again, the young talent at the skill positions. How about the catch by Devin Aguilar over top Jai Eugene? This kid started 3 games as a true freshman last year. Colorado High School Player of the Year in 07, signed with Washington. Young talent, and this guy has the system and the quarterback to take advantage of it.
Going to call a timeout here, and Steve Sarkisian has yearned for anything positive for a team that has lost 14 consecutive games, trying to end the hurt and the pain. We'll be right back.
I got my PhD from LSU, and I think that prepared me for my future life. The only way to control the AIDS epidemic, I believe, is through vaccinations. My primary activity in the HIV field is to try to develop a vaccine, and we have greater opportunities every day. We're dedicated to finding a way to develop a vaccine that works against AIDS.
Jake Locker and Steve Sarkisian, the brain trust of the Huskies, talking things over. Bob, he talked about wanting to take some hits. I'm not sure how many he wants to take to get that feel again.
Well, let's say this. The two most important people in the football program are the head coach and the quarterback. And when you sit and meet the head coach and the quarterback like we did from Washington yesterday, you leave feeling their energy and believing they have special personality. I think you're seeing that transformation here tonight of this football team.
Locker back to pass, given time, and fires it incomplete into a little bit of traffic with 10 seconds to go now in the first half.
And that was a good decision right there by Jake Locker to throw that football basically away.
What do you do here? You got 10 seconds to go and all of your timeouts remaining. Check that, none of your timeouts remaining. Not bad. Second down coming up, ball on the 20.
And Mark, with 10 seconds left right here and no timeouts, you obviously don't want to get sacked. You want to throw this football in the end zone.
Locker across the field and wisely throws that one away.
Good decision again. That's where that mental clock in your head, that ball is snapped with 10 seconds. You feel the rush, you roll out. Excellent job right there to not fight for extra yards. Just give yourself a field goal, because this is a win for Washington this first half of this football game.
Eric Fulkin now to attempt this field goal from 38 yards out. And the feel-good vibe continues here at Husky Stadium in Steve Sarkisian's opening game of a new era. They've got a little bit more giddy up in their gallop right now. And good reason for a lot of optimism around Seattle and on the campus at the University of Washington as they go into the locker room down 4. Right now, here's Reese, Mark, and Lou and the Wendy's halftime report, guys. And welcome back, everyone, to ESPN College Football Primetime, presented by Hampton Hotels. The Emerald City of Seattle aglow at night, and the hometown Huskies doing a nice job against LSU, down by just 4 points. That a view from one of the real landmarks here, the Space Needle. And the view for Jake Locker wasn't all that bad in the first half, Bob.
Mark, you are right. I mean, that was an excellent first half by this Washington offense. And you look at the first half stats, what's going to really jump out at you, 296 yards total offense. Last year, Washington averaged 263 yards a game. So they have more yards in the first half than they had all last year by average. A great offensive first half by Washington.
And this against a quality opponent in LSU. Tigers going to get the ball to start the third quarter here, and another short kickoff coming down at the 34-yard line. And it's returned back to the 39. Well, a lot of movement. You would think maybe in the top 10 with that Oklahoma upset. A loss to BYU. Bradford going out with a sprained shoulder, did not come back to play in the third quarter. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech also losing. And that really a bad day for the ACC, Bob, when you look at the ACC teams that lost.
Boy, you look at the totality from top to bottom, no question a tough day on the ACC.
Jordan Jefferson completes his first pass for the second half. That's the tight end, Richard Dixon.
And I think this is something LSU really has to do. They only threw 8 passes in the first half. Jordan Jefferson completed 3 of them. They have a definite athletic advantage on the perimeter in this football game. Get the ball in the hands of those wide receivers and tight ends.
Second down and about 1 to go. Jefferson out of the shotgun this time. And he's collared and sacked back at the 37-yard line by Alameda Ta'amu. Ta'amu played a lot as a true freshman and gained some valuable playing time. Push them back and make it 3rd and long.
You're going to watch this twist stunt right here. Watch him come all the way around. The inside move by the defensive end, number 50. Big man coming around on the twist stunt.
And Jefferson wisely throws it away. Good discretion by the sophomore quarterback. Good pressure up front by Tio Nessim and Ta'amu. 4th down coming up. It's a 3 and out on LSU's drive.
This defense last year was 100th in the nation in sacks, 115 in tackles for losses. No negative plays. You see already the influence of Nick Holt as far as putting pressure on that passer.
Jory Fogerson back at the 21-yard line for the Huskies. Helton going to punt from his own 28. A short punt. And it takes the Husky bounce all the way out to the 37-yard line. So Jake Locker is going to have pretty good starting field position here after the 23-yard punt. And Nick Holt's defense, I'm going to take a guess, Bob, they're going to be statistically much better than a season ago.
Well, really, last season's over. You look at scoring offense, scoring defense, turnover margin. This is a different Washington football team. It shows you what a fine line there is and how hope and energy and a fresh start for everyone changes the whole perspective.
1st down and 10. Chris Polk in the backfield. Takes the handoff. And he got rocked at the 37-yard line right near the line of scrimmage by Kelvin Shepard, the 6'3" junior linebacker who plays all 3 linebacking positions. 2nd down and 10 coming up. Let's look at Shepard, and we have a shaken up player down in the field. That's Charles Alexander, number 31, the 6th-year senior. Granted an extra year of eligibility by the NCAA because of injury.
And you really hope he is okay because he hasn't had an injury-riddled career at LSU. You mentioned 6th year. He had a knee in 07, an ACL. And let's go back to the end of the first half. We didn't really have a chance to talk about this as we look at John Chavis. You know, LSU was on defense. Washington had the football with 44 seconds left, and LSU used a defensive timeout with 44 seconds, then again with 40 seconds, trying to get the football back. And then Washington makes the 1st down and ends up with a big pass to go up to cut it to 17-13. But I don't think you can question that strategy by calling defensive timeouts to try to get the football back at the end of the first half.
Interesting.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
2nd and 10. And Polk brought down at the 37-yard line by Raheem Alem. It's Chad Jones's brother, actually. Jones in the secondary. Number 3. No gain on the play. It'll be 3rd down and 10 coming up.
Raheem Alem, you know, he started just 1 game prior to this, but a first-team All-Southeastern Conference guy because he's a definite speed rusher. We haven't seen that pass rush yet tonight, though. Maybe right here, Mark.
On 3rd down and long, Locker with a quick drop delivers a strike complete. And that's going to be a 1st down out at the 49-yard line. Number 82, Jordan Polk with the catch. He might be the fastest player on the team. Brandon Taylor making the stop on the 12-yard pickup.
Jordan Polk is a little guy. Last year he was kind of their gadget guy, trick play, Oregon sprint champion, and the cousin of Chris Polk, the tailback.
Won the 100 meters in high school with a time of 10.3. Now we get a flag down on the play. Looks like it's going to be an illegal substitution against Washington.
I think anyone that questioned could Jake Locker succeed in a drop back style offense, I don't think there's any doubt. And we're just a half a football into the 09 season. I mean, he has a quick, accurate arm.
Certainly not showing much rust, Bob, from missing 8 games last year. He was injured in the 4th game. Broke his thumb on his non-throwing hand. This one's batted down, tipped actually at the line of scrimmage by Harry Coleman. Coleman, a converted defensive back, a little on the smaller side. And I say that in the reference of football, 218 pounds for the position. Nice to see Alexander back up on his feet. Meanwhile, for the Tigers, he was taken off the field a few moments ago, shaken up. 2nd down and 15 coming up for the Huskies. Little jailbreak screen, complete. Across midfield to the 48 is Aguilar, picking up 8 on the play. It'll be 3rd down and about 7 to go for the Huskies. Any minor bit of success is always welcomed by Steve Sarkisian. He has made that a part of his blueprint here with the Huskies to really celebrate every little bit of success they have, whether it be in practice, whether it be off the field. A lot of team building exercises. They have really rebuilt the psyche and the self-esteem of each and every one of the players here.
And I know you love that Bark for Sark t-shirt they have broken out here.
Give myself an XL. 3rd down coming up. And Locker fires incomplete. 4th down as a result. DeAndre Goodwin was probably the closest player in the vicinity, but didn't really have much of a chance of making that catch.
Good pressure by Drake Nevis. Right up the gut. Really caused Jake Locker to overthrow that football. LSU, Chad Jones back as the punt returner. You know, Trendon Holiday, if the ball's in better field position, is back there sometimes as a punt returner. Chad Jones a little more sure-handed.
Jones, a baseball star on the LSU NCAA championship team. Told me before the game that the slider is his go-to pitch. 4-point game when we come back.
College football in high definition is presented by Vizio.
And welcome back to ESPN College Football Primetime, presented by Hampton Hotels. A competitive game, maybe a lot closer than most people would have thought coming into it at this point. Tigers leading 17-13, and it's 1st down and 10 LSU. They're going to be starting from their own 13-yard line. Well, right now, Jake Locker 13 of 24 in his first game in almost a year. Coming up ahead, we'll tell you about Steve Sarkisian's interesting perspective while watching the Boise State game on his head coaching debut. And we'll talk about the classic 20-hour rule and the impacts that it has on the various teams across the country. A pickup of 3 yards on the play by Charles Scott.
We're going to get a little extracurricular activity out here.
Tolliver and Richardson were going at it on the outside. Bob, is it just me, or on Sportsmanship Weekend have we seen some really egregiously severe unsportsmanlike activity?
Well, we really have, and let's be honest, we called the Boise Oregon game, and that should have been a great lesson for players and coaches around the country. You don't have to learn the hard way. Learn from the example of LeGarrette Blount.
2nd and 7. Jefferson completes the pass. And there's Brandon LaFell, who we've been waiting to hear from for quite some time. Well, Steve Sarkisian making his coaching debut here for Washington, and he had a chance to watch that Boise State game and put himself in the, well, pretty much inside the minds of head coach Chip Kelly, who made his coaching debut, and what he would have done in such a situation, having to deal with this now. LeGarrette Blount subsequently suspended for the rest of the year. Williams in the ball game, and Williams is stopped up immediately at about the 30-yard line. Picked up about 1 on the play, but Steve Sarkisian sat there and took notes on Thursday night, Bob, and well, it was one of those deals. What would I have done in the various situations, both regarding the game and regarding the player?
And I think probably more so how the game went. You know, that first half that Chip Kelly experienced in Boise, Steve Sarkisian put himself in that exact situation. So in some ways it was kind of a dress rehearsal for Steve, picturing what you would be doing at halftime under those adverse conditions. And that's a great thing about games on Thursday nights for coaches. Coaches all across the country watch those games. You just hope you don't have to relive some of those negative experiences.
Better somebody else than you.
Exactly. And I think that's, if there's any positive from that whole situation, players around the country saw what can happen.
Here's Scott, wide open, yawning hole for the first down, out beyond the 45, the 46. But it's interesting, you know, after the gain of 8, Bob, and we've all seen it over the years of college football covering it, that sure, we have unfortunate situations with LeGarrette Blount, but for every LeGarrette Blount who makes a misstep, there are players who do wonderful things on and off the football field.
Well, you are exactly right. I think that's a great point.
Jefferson keeps it himself, and a slick bit of ball handling out to the 46-yard line, picked up 8. Jordan Jefferson turned 19 years old a little over a week ago, and Bob, frankly, he's showing a lot of poise in this game.
Well, he had a great block right there by the tight end, Richard Dixon. But I agree. I mean, this is 19 years old. He's only started 3 football games now, and this is a tough place to play.
Here's Trendon Holiday getting the handoff, the converted wide receiver, now a running back, down to the 45-yard line. Picked up 1.
I'll tell you why this place is so tough to play. It brings me back to when we played here several times. It's a great setting. The stands go straight up, but they love to try to intimidate you with that dog bark. I mean, you come out of that locker room, it's a good 100 yards to get to the field, and they line up in there and bark out of those rafters. It's not quite like at LSU now when you pull up with that tiger bait stuff going on. But listen to this place.
Looked like LSU may have tried to call a timeout. And they got it. Somebody forgot to tell Saron Black. 6.5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. The SEC taking on the Pac-10 in a good one in the opener for both. Back after this.
ESPN's College Football Primetime. Brought to you by the terrifying thriller Sorority Row. Only in theaters September 11th. And IHOP, official sponsor of the NFL. Try the All-Pro lineup today. Come hungry, leave happy.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Emerald City. We're in Seattle at Husky Stadium. LSU with a 4-point lead in the ball. 3rd down and 1. Keelan Williams is the deep back in the eye, and they option into the boundary. Jefferson lunging, I'm not sure that he got the first down. He got a very fortuitous spot, stretching that ball out with the left hand. Savannah chasing him out of bounds.
Well, he did get a very good spot right there. Let's take a look at this again.
Pretty dynamic.
Really
talent.
hard to tell.
Jordan Jefferson, the quarterback, with a lunge there, won a state championship in high school. Here's the measurement, and LSU got the first down on that last-minute lunge by Jefferson. Won a state championship in high school, was actually injured, Bob, his junior year, showed up at LSU's football camp his senior season and really turned a lot of heads, and they got on him real quickly in the recruitment game, and he ended up signing with the Tigers.
Another one of those kids from Louisiana that always wanted to be a Tiger. And that really is the difference, I think, between Washington and LSU. The talent in the state of Louisiana.
The movement up front. Deshaun Matthews, and one of the offensive linemen for the Tigers actually extended a hand and made contact.
Yeah. That's a good call right there. If you're a defensive man and you flinch, jump across that line of scrimmage at an offensive player in close proximity to you, that is a defensive offside penalty. Even though you're going to see the offensive guard move, it was caused by the defensive man being across the neutral zone.
It's at 39 now, 1st and 5. Trendon Holiday in the backfield beside Jefferson. Complete, and a great move by Tolliver. Tolliver, touchdown. He juked Greg Walker. And 39 yards later, the Tigers now with a 23-13 lead.
Well, that's the second time Terrence Tolliver did that to Greg Walker tonight. Mark, we said earlier the biggest advantage for LSU is on the perimeter. And that is a big, pretty wide receiver right there who will be a star at LSU.
So with under 6 minutes to go now in the third quarter, the Tigers leading 24-13. And for Tolliver, his second touchdown of the night. And boy, he has really victimized Greg Walker. Remember, you can't spell touchdown or Tolliver without the team. Back with more after this.
You got to bring it, Sparty, from the diaphragm.
Come on, bring it now.
Got to bring it.
Go. Here's how it looked.
When you put the ball on the perimeter, you can take the scheme out of it. It's athlete on athlete, and LSU on the edge has the superior athletes compared to Washington, particularly LSU's offense and Washington's defense.
Coming down at the 7-yard line. Polk on the kickoff return. Well, you talk about the difference being the personnel, Bob. Schemes can only take you so far. What does it say for where Washington has to go in terms of personnel?
Yeah, Mark, I think it's pretty obvious. Washington offensively has those kind of athletes on the perimeter. I know it's frustrating for Nick Holt right now. There's nothing involving scheme with what just happened. They have to get those kind of athletes on the corner because it's one-on-one, and they have to get guys back in the program like this right here.
Yeah, that's Lawyer Malloy, former Washington Husky from 92 to 95. Spent some great years with the Patriots, and just today signing with the Seattle Seahawks. So a homecoming of sorts for him. But there has been a great lineage here of wonderful players going back to Spider Gaines and Warren Moon and Nick Holt, hoping to get those types of players here in Seattle. And Steve Sarkisian, Bob, has done a great job of reigniting the rich history here, bringing those former players in and having them address the team and learn the history that is Washington football.
Well, following that USC model again, and a big part of what Pete Carroll did was that and recruit.
Pass by Locker complete at the 30-yard line to number 15, Jermaine Kearse, the 6'2" sophomore. Picked up 8 on the play. You almost sense that things have gone a little bit flat here for the Huskies in the third quarter with just under 5.5 minutes to go.
And that's why from this point on, this guy's thinking right here in the back of his mind, this has really been a positive start for us. Right now, we got to make sure this thing doesn't get away from us, because there's a lot of benefit so far as the way we've played. This has provided a lot of confidence for players and fans.
On 3rd and 2, Locker going to keep it himself. Uses his running ability to get the first down, and he earned it, taking a hit at the 33-yard line from Chris Hawkins. Picked up 4 on the play. Jake Locker, 6'3", 226, which is about 10 or 15 pounds lighter than he played a season ago. Doesn't look like a linebacker anymore.
Signed with the California Angels, but only for the rights to him. The Angels control the rights for the next 6 years. He's made no obligation to play baseball. In fact, he told us yesterday he wants to be an NFL quarterback.
Hands it off to Polk, and Polk runs it down to the 37-yard line. Yeah, a native of Washington, and Bob, he's pretty slapped together when you talk about athletic gifts as well. 226 pounds and a 4.39 40-yard dash time.
Grew up in Ferndale, Washington, which is right up close to the Canadian border.
Second down and 6. Hands it off, and nothing doing that time for Chris Polk. Met by Jacob Kutera and Drake Nevis. A loss of about 3 on the play.
Excellent defensive call, John Chavis. Watch Kutera come on the blitz and run right into, watch Kutera right here. He's going to come around on the blitz and hit it right in the face. Little twist stump between the linebackers. That's just a good defense against a bad offensive play for that defense.
See what the Huskies dial up here on 3rd down and 10. Little trips formation to the top of the screen. Locker with time. Going to do it himself, or at least try to, and tackled at the 37-yard line by Patrick Peterson again, who's made several nice open field sticks tonight, Bob.
And that is the difference right there. LSU, you see Patrick Peterson limping. They have those players that play way out there in space. They're always on the island, that are great athletes. That's the difference right there. Patrick Peterson was able to make that play in space.
There's a look at Trindon Holiday back for this punt, standing at his own 20-yard line. Trindon Holiday, one of the fastest men literally on the planet, won the NCAA 100-meter outdoor championship, and he catches it at the 10. Maybe should have let it bounce, but when you have that kind of speed, you can take those kind of risks sometimes. Makes it out to the 17-yard line. I said he had world-class speed. He ran a 9.997 at the outdoor championships, Bob. He's a diminutive 5 foot 5.5 inches, but he got the wheels turning real quickly here, winning his first 100-meter championship, beating Jacoby Ford of Clemson right there, who pulled up at about the 60-meter mark. And I had a chance to ask him about his transformation, Bob, from a track guy, quote unquote, to a football player. Get to that on the other side of this play. 1st down and 10. Woo. Pass complete. I know you like that kind of hit as a former defensive coordinator and coach. Mitch Joseph making the catch. picked up 4 yards on the play. But when you talk about Trindon Holiday, Bob, he said that there was a sequence in practice where he got in there, threw his body around, and the light kind of went on. He felt like he was no longer just a track guy, and he turned into a football player. Jefferson keeps it himself and makes it out to the 23-yard line. And Bob, when you think about the differences between being a track guy, quote unquote, or a football guy, what are they?
You always think of, when you talk about a track football player, is he tough enough? Is he physical enough? That's not always the major point. The big point is, can a track guy control that speed and stop and start? Because in track, all you do is go full speed. In football, you have to set guys up and control that speed. Oh.
Jefferson with good speed to elude that tackle, and he took a stick. Nate Williams rocked his world, and Williams actually getting up a little slow on the play. As Jordan Jefferson isn't small, he tips the scale at 220 pounds. Williams right in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, you're going to watch Aldridge right here with great pressure. Should have been a sack, and there's that stick coming in there by Nate Williams, the safety. Whack.
You saw Jefferson's head rock back.
He almost dropped that football too, which I can understand why, but he took a shot right there. And sometimes when you deliver the blow, you have self-inflicted shots you take. But that, you have to be impressed. Mark, we were here late last year for Washington and Notre Dame, and we talked about how this football team had no punch. There was no knockbacks, no collisions. This is an entirely different, rejuvenated football team, and that's great evidence of it right there.
Yeah, pretty clear that the future should bring good things for this Husky football program. Fourth down and short coming up, and punting situation coming up. Cody Burns back at his own 37 to get this punt. Third punt of the night by Josh Jasper. Gets off a nice high spiral. Burns calling for the fair catch at the 35. Looked a little bit shaky, but got it done. Well, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series heads back south for Labor Day weekend. Only 2 races remain for Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, and Mark Martin to get off the bubble and into the chase. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in Atlanta. Coverage begins Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN with NASCAR Countdown. Telecast presented by Pennzoil. Well, after that 38-yard punt, it'll be 1st and 10 for the Huskies, who have yet to score in the second half with 3 seconds to go in the third quarter. Jefferson took a hit and able to answer the phone. Nate Williams a little shaken up too on the other side. Here's Locker, and the pass is going to be ruled complete at the 43 to Jory Fogerson.
Fogerson started 7 games at safety last year, moved to offense, moved to tailback this year. That's a remarkable story as well.
Yeah, the cousin of Nate Robinson, former basketball great here at the University of Washington. An 11-point lead for the Tigers when we come back for the fourth quarter. Under the lights at Husky Stadium, I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie, back for the fourth quarter of play. Washington trailing by 11, looking at second down and 3 to go. And this, the coaching debut of Steve Sarkisian, former offensive coordinator at USC. On the carry, that's Chris Polk. And he looks like he got enough for the first down, falling forward. Well, when you talk about USC and what lies ahead in the Pac-10, a conference that trying to prove that it's more than just a one-trick pony right now with USC and the rest. Good bowl success last year, 5-0.
You and I get to see the Trojans next week in Columbus.
Yes, sir.
As we go up there to do a 3D telecast for ESPN.
The game going to be seen in various theaters and venues around the country. Here's Polk again off the left side of that offensive line over midfield and into LSU territory. Brandon Taylor making the stop on the play after the pickup of 3. What about USC and that game against Ohio State next week? Buckeyes with a huge scare today against Navy.
That doesn't surprise me.
Really?
I've coached against Navy enough times to know they are always hanging around and always in a position to beat you. They do an incredible job, and they have found a triple option quarterback at Navy.
Makes all the difference. 2nd down and 7. Locker thought about it. Now he's going to take off. And Locker tackled back at the 46 by Kelvin Shepard, a versatile linebacker for the Tigers.
You see the ability of Jake Locker, but an excellent open field tackle by Kelvin Shepard.
Picked up 3 on the play. Washington Huskies haven't won a football game since November of 2007. That's a 14-game losing streak. And oh, how they would love to end the misery tonight. 3rd and 4. Locker got the first down and stepped out of bounds wisely. At the 41-yard line, he picked up 5.
See how difficult it is when you spread that football field out. You have a quarterback back there that is so mobile. One thing Washington do, Mark, is get this early season schedule better. You know, last year they opened Oregon, BYU, Oklahoma. They have LSU, USC in 2 of their first 3 this year. They need to get that opening schedule a little easier.
Yeah. Polk is brought down. That's going to be a loss of a couple on the play. First Polk tackled.
They just keep coming, those defensive linemen, don't they? Josh
sure
Downs, a freshman at 275 pounds. Look at that group.
They look good down in the end zone before the game.
They've looked the same for 15 years. They've always looked like that. It's a great looking defense, and this John Chavis defense has settled down in the second half. You know, Washington 296 yards in the first half.
They're replacing some pretty good players up front, including Ricky Jean-Francois, who was a draft pick of the San Francisco 49ers. Locker going to pass. Has a man in the end zone. Incomplete, but a flag thrown on the play. Jordan Polk got in behind the defense.
Boy, he got behind Brandon Taylor, number 15. He was behind, so he never looked back to play the football. I don't know about that call. There's no face guarding. There was no contact.
Yeah, and that should have been caught, it looked like.
Exactly, but I don't understand the call. Let's take a look again if we can. I mean, Brandon Taylor was just in a catch-up mode. You're allowed to put your arms up in the air. You got to be kidding. Maybe did the left hand slightly have contact?
Didn't appear as if he grabbed him either. That's only the 2nd LSU penalty tonight. 1st and 10. Locker under a little bit of heat. Delivers a strike, but it's dropped at the 10-yard line by Aguilar. Patterson in on the coverage. But Jake Locker couldn't have thrown that ball any better. A deflating incompletion, and that's Lazarius Livingston down on the field.
Mark, watch him in the pocket. You talk about courage now and arm strength. That is a perfectly thrown football. Devin Aguilar matched up again on Patrick Peterson, but that throw right there said a lot. The courage to stand in that pocket, and then the ability to throw that corner out under pressure. 2 plays in a row that these young receivers, Jordan Polk and Devin Aguilar, had a chance to make big, big plays.
Jake Locker playing in his first game in about a year, or close to it. Looking pretty good in his return from injury. All right, 2nd and 10 coming up for the Washington Huskies, down by 11 points with 11:44 to go in the game. Jake Locker had a pass dropped on him by Devin Aguilar just a few moments ago. This one complete. Boy, they hit you on defense. Don't the Tigers? Aguilar that time able to hang on to it.
You think back a year ago. Again, I hate to keep going back to last year for the Washington Huskies, but it shows you what a fine line. They had BYU beat here early in the season with Jake Locker at quarterback on the controversial celebration by Jake. When he was hurt last year, they lost all hope. But this guy has provided so much of a spark for this football program tonight.
Washington is 10 of 14 on 3rd down conversions. Let's see what they do here. Locker fires high and incomplete at the 22-yard line. Intended for Jordan Polk.
You look right here. This is a difficult decision because a field goal makes it an 8-point game.
Looks like
this is the right decision as long as your inconsistent field goal kicker makes his field goal.
That's a big if. He has a strong enough leg. Sarkisian says that he's good from about 52 yards in. This one coming from about 42 yards out. Well, he shanked it off to the left. You said it, inconsistent. And a picture of it, a snapshot of it right there with 10:50 to go in the 3rd quarter. Well, here's what's happening right now, and part of the story right now is Jordan Jefferson, the 19-year-old quarterback for LSU. Not spectacular tonight, but very efficient. 8 of 14 passing. A couple of touchdown passes to Terrence Tolliver, and here's what's coming up ahead. We'll talk about that classic 20-hour NCAA rule, and what does Jake Locker and Dennis Dixon, what do they have in common? Here's Jefferson. Tipped and almost intercepted at the 40-yard line. It was tipped by Victor Iowa. 2nd down and 10 coming up.
Really anxious to see as this season progresses. Jordan Jefferson is the total package at quarterback, and Gary Croton, their offensive coordinator, is really a dynamic coordinator that does a lot.
Jefferson hands it off this time. Gain of about 2 on the play by Brooks. Well, ESPN kicks a college football double dip off on Labor Day. First at 4 Eastern. It's a battle of Big East rivals, Cincinnati taking on Rutgers. Then at 8, we feature Sunshine State battle between Miami and Florida State. College football presented by Cars.com and college football primetime on ESPN Monday. Richard Murphy on that last carry for LSU. 3rd and 7. Jefferson unloads it out of bounds.
LSU looks a little tired to me right now, a little lethargic. You wonder if the fact it's 12:30 on their clock, flying 2,500 miles, they just look like they're walking around a little bit right now. And this Husky team is still within reach now.
4th and 7, forcing the Tigers to punt. 4th punt of the night. Coming up for Josh Jasper. Back deep, it's Fogerson. Oh, they almost got to it. They came after that punt. Fair catch called at the 42, so they're going to have good field position to begin this drive on the 31-yard punt.
ESPN's College Football Primetime is presented by Hampton Hotels. At Hampton, we love having you here. And in part by Craftsman. Trust in your hands.
A few moments ago, they honored Corey Dillon, former star here at the University of Washington and later on in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals and the New England Patriots. Talked about the former great players that have come through the University of Washington, and the fans here are really appreciative. First down and 10. Boy, Locker was under a lot of heat. It looked like they were actually trying to set up the screen, Bob. Didn't work.
They were. Just so much pressure. I think Drake Nevis batted that football down with his left hand right there.
Second down and 10 coming up, and what a relief for these teams to finally get a chance to actually play a football game after hitting each other for the last several weeks in practice. And one of these teams has actually been in school for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Of course, different schools have different starting times for class. There's Polk on the toss sweep, and he's run down and stopped at the 42-yard line, right around the line of scrimmage. And of course, that 20-hour rule, Bob, becoming very actually gotten in the headlines of late.
It really has. I mean, referring to Rich Rodriguez at Michigan. But you look at Washington starting school on September 30th. They will have played 4 games before they start school. I don't know that I've ever heard of starting school that late.
September 30th. Third down and 11. The pass is complete at midfield, but short of the first down. Nice catch made by Goodwin, but it's short of the first down, a pickup of 8. So, Bob, what are the implications of that 20-hour rule on the starting dates of school?
Well, first of all, Washington's on the quarter system. That's why they start so late. But, you know, everyone now knows of the 20-hour rule. Once you start school, you have a maximum of 20 hours to spend with your players. If you have not started school, there is no 20-hour rule until after the first game, which gives Washington obviously a heck of an advantage over LSU in preparation for this game.
See if they can make it count here on 4th down and 2. Locker rolls out, going to try and turn on the Jets. He'll have the first down. Jake Locker with some speed. 1st and 10 on the 6-yard gain. That's all athletic ability.
What Jake Locker tell us yesterday? He said he feels like a pro because there's no classes. I mean, they've really run things like an NFL training camp. They look pretty fresh right there. I'll say one thing the NCAA, I think, should do. Change that rule if you don't have class to the 20-hour rule starts the week of your first game. Why? Not the week after, because you have a benefit over your opponent if they're in school. Yeah. They had the 20-hour rule that first week.
Up until that first game, yeah. Good point. 7:46 to go. Polk over the left side, keeping those legs moving close to the 40-yard line. Going to pick up about 4 on the play. 7:33 to go in the 4th quarter. Washington Huskies debuting their new head coach, Steve Sarkisian, here at Husky Stadium in Seattle. Washington take on number 11 LSU. Sarkisian, the former offensive coordinator at the University of Southern California. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie on a night that LSU has made its longest road trip ever, some 2,600 miles from Baton Rouge to Seattle.
I tell you, they are a tired football team. Just looking out there across the board at LSU. Washington is the much fresher team right now.
Locker going to go up top. Great coverage and broken up by Patrick Peterson. I'm not sure they want to keep trying that sophomore, Bob.
Boy, that young man will have a great future in the NFL. But, you know, it's kind of surprising in a way. LSU does look fatigued to me. You look out there at their players, a lot of them with their hands on their hips. This cool weather compared to what they've had all camp in Baton Rouge, I mean, you think they'd feel great. But the travel, the time, all those things, I think have caught up a little bit with them.
It's 12:32 in Baton Rouge. And Locker keeps it himself. Why not? Good decision. First down, Huskies. Jake Locker looking very fresh.
Again, there is a spread offense play as Jake Locker comes out on the old decide play, and he just outruns Raheem Aleem right there.
He showed that his 40 time really might be a 4.4 flat, Bob.
I think that's legit,
yeah,
because we heard that from a lot of sources.
At 225 pounds, first down and 10. Pass complete at about the 14-yard line. Paul Homer making the grab, working against Patrick Peterson. A 2-yard pickup on the play. Second down and 8 coming up.
LSU right now is hanging on. You look at Patrick Peterson, you look at Harry Coleman, they are hanging by a thread right now. You think back to that last series. If Washington would have made that field goal, it would only be an 8-point game. But I'm telling you right now, there's an opportunity for Washington in this football game.
A lot of hands on hips going on right now by those LSU defenders. Second and 8. Little out and up pattern into the end zone. Incomplete. Intended for Fogerson, who was working against Perry Riley, the linebacker.
How about that matchup? Perry Riley, a really talented linebacker, now matched up one-on-one. That's great coverage. That is great coverage.
They're down in 8 coming up. This is the 10th play of the Washington drive. Looking for a good vibe right here. Locker, incomplete, intended for Goodwin. And they didn't seem to be on the same frequency that time. It's going to be 4th down coming up.
LSU much better in man-to-man coverage than they are zone, but I've been very impressed by Washington's pass protection. He's had excellent time back there in the drop-back game.
Says a lot about the offensive line that features 3 new starters from last year. Folk now in to attempt this field goal. And after missing the last one, he makes this one from 32 yards out. And they are to within 8 points. Hanging on. Welcome back. In time now to take a look at tonight's Good Hands Flashback, brought to you by Allstate. Oh boy, good hands right there by middle linebacker
Jacob Katera.
And then more good hands by wide receiver Terrence Tolliver, the first of his 2 touchdowns on the night, and 2 great moves in open field space against Greg Walker. But they looked a lot fresher back then, Bob.
That's why this is a key drive right now.
75 to 42 in the total plays. You saw it there. Here's Trindon Holiday.
That's an amazing statistic. 75 plays for Washington and 42 for LSU. I mean, this is the opposite of being tired right here. I'm not sure I like that little choreographed deal there, but I mean, they're having fun.
That's a new deal we didn't see last year, that's for sure.
Those guys over there doing that aren't playing in the game, though. I can promise you that. These guys right here are playing in the game.
Well, somebody's got to make a little noise on the sidelines. First down and 10 for the Tigers. Jefferson on the option, the toss. Keelan Williams with a nice run, gaining about 8 yards on the play. Good decision by Jefferson to make the toss that time, and some good blocking up front, Bob. 5 minutes to go in the 4th quarter.
It's an excellent block out there by Dixon, the tight end, number 18. This crowd is staying in it now. They realize this is a big series.
On the bubble screen, complete to LaFell. LaFell's been a little conspicuous by his silence tonight. Got enough for the first down that time. Picked up 3 yards. He's the leader this year offensively amongst those receivers. Well, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series heads back south of the border Labor Day weekend. Only 2 races remain for Kyle Busch and the crew. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern time on ESPN with NASCAR Countdown. Jordan Jefferson, the 19-year-old sophomore, with the lead right now. See if he can close the deal on the pitch. Williams again. Down to the 47-yard line. You know, quarterback Jordan Jefferson says that he likes to watch a lot of tape of guys like Sam Bradford, amongst others, and Donovan McNabb, Peyton Manning, to see how they do things. Won't be watching Bradford for a while. Well, depending on how serious Bradford's injury is to his shoulder.
That is a shame. You show how the whole football team suffers a loss of a guy of that magnitude, obviously, with Oklahoma today.
Oklahoma being upset today by BYU, if you're just joining us. Seeing a lot of Keelan Williams, Bob, in the backfield as opposed to Charles Scott. Here's Jefferson back to pass. And fires a dart. Who else? Tolliver again. That's been his money guy today.
You have to give Gary Croton a lot of credit, showing the confidence in the young quarterback to throw that football in this situation. A lot of guys would just buckle it up right now, try to ram it down their throat. But the difference in this game are those perimeter receivers for LSU matching up on the Washington corners.
Under 3 minutes to go now. Washington with 3 timeouts remaining. And the clock working against them right now. Williams on the carry, has a gaping hole. Keelan Williams still on his feet. Down to the 5-yard line, 1st and goal, LSU. Got a nice block up front from Bob Hebert with a 16-yard pickup. 1st and goal, LSU.
That name's familiar to you, isn't it? Yep. That center you just called out?
That's Bobby Hebert, former quarterback with the New Orleans Saints.
Impressive drive right here by this young LSU quarterback and football team, taking the pressure off their defense and putting this game away for the Tigers.
On the bootleg action, Jefferson. Touchdown Tigers. LaFell with the catch. Going down low to make the grab.
Talked about early, could be the #1 wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft in April out of Houston, Texas. Finally gets his hands on the football.
His 15th career touchdown. He's now had a catch actually in 29 consecutive games.
The confidence, though, of Gary Croton, a 19-year-old youngest quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, to throw the football late in the game shows you what they think of that young quarterback.
The Tigers, like George and Weezy and Jefferson, moving on up. Back after this. Back at Husky Stadium, the Tigers increasing their lead to 31-16 with 1:54 to go. Jake Locker on the sidelines, perhaps thinking of what could have been, if not for a missed field goal a little while ago that may have put them in a better situation back in the earlier part of the second half. But his counterpart, Jordan Jefferson, has put up some pretty good numbers for a 19-year-old. 11 of 19, Bob. 3 touchdown passes, 172 yards, all career highs. Back at the 2-yard line. This is Quentin Richardson on the return. Out to the 18. Well, ESPN kicks a college football doubleheader off Labor Day. First at 4 Eastern, it's a battle of Big East rivals. Cincinnati taking on Rutgers with Tony Pike, talented quarterback for the Bearcats. Then at 8 o'clock, Miami against number 18 Florida State. College football presented by Cars.com and college football primetime on ESPN. Ja'Cory Harris, speaking of quarterbacks, going to take the reins of that Miami Hurricane offense, and unlike last year, he doesn't have to worry about another quarterback over his shoulder. Locker completes the pass to James Johnson, the true freshman, who makes it out to the 23-yard line.
I thought that ball hit the ground. I guess I was seeing things. Huh?
Now they're going to say it's incomplete.
Yeah, I guess
you're right.
It did, yeah.
And I'm the one with the new contacts.
You know, next week, Idaho comes in here. And that will be maybe the biggest game of the year for this Washington football team.
In what sense?
Well, they're excited about playing LSU. Everybody recognizes LSU. It's kind of a no-lose situation for them because if they play well,
like they have tonight.
Like you have tonight. You never accept a loss. But obviously, they have played well. Next week against Idaho, though, they will be expected to win. And then you look at USC and then at Stanford, and they have a very difficult schedule. Idaho is a key game for them at home because you have to continue the momentum you have that you've generated tonight and the confidence that you have that you generated tonight.
Good crowd tonight of over 69,000 showing up at Husky Stadium. Locker taken down. And a flag on the play. And you talk about Stanford coming up on that schedule for the Huskies. Stanford.
Drake Nevis has really come in tonight and showed a spark in the middle. Charles Alexander was injured earlier in the game. These LSU crowd kind of taking over this stadium right here as the Husky fans try to get on that interstate and beat that traffic.
Okay, they had 8,000 tickets that went on sale at LSU. How'd they get the other 3,000? That's what I need to know. Locker fires complete at the 32-yard line. That's his tight end, Cavario Middleton. Picked up about 10 on the play.
One thing with LSU fans, that economy doesn't affect them because these are Christmas gifts, savings, everything. They're going to find a way to get to these Tiger games now.
It felt like half of them were at our hotel. And that's an elaborate face paint job.
Yeah. If that mask was a Christmas gift, he ought to give it back. Huh?
That's not a mask, Bob. 3rd and 11. Pass complete to Middleton once again. Jefferson with those career high numbers and flag down on the field. You talk about the importance of that Idaho game next week, and when you look at the fact that Washington hasn't won a game since November of 2007,
yeah,
it's even more important.
Exactly. Exactly. Raheem Aleem right there with the roughing the passer penalty. LSU crowd here obviously doesn't like that call.
Jordan Jefferson, 11 of 19, 172, and 3 touchdowns. 2 of them going to Terrence Tolliver. Locker with a career high 41 attempts now. Who says he can't chuck it, huh? Intended for Jermaine Kearse with 37 seconds to go.
I really like the position that this LSU football team is in. You know, they have a difficult schedule, as you're always going to have. You know, they go to Alabama. They go to Ole Miss. They have Florida, Georgia from the east. But they are a hungry football team. And if you're an LSU fan, don't overreact maybe that you thought this game would be a lot more of a blowout than it is. Because this Washington team, with that energy generated by the new staff and the young talent.
Right. I know people are short-sighted and myopic and everything, but wasn't it just 2 years ago that LSU won the national championship?
Exactly.
Pass complete down to the 44-yard line to James Johnson. Locker with another completion.
But again, not to belabor, I am surprised how tired LSU's defense is, but I guess when you look at those total numbers of plays, they have been on the field a long time for the first football game of the year.
LSU about to go 5-0 in season openers under their head coach Les Miles.
And that non-conference streak of his now is what, 20-0 now?
Yeah, non-conference wins.
Yeah. He's done a great job. I mean, he came in, his first season was Katrina. And actually, I did the first home game after Katrina on a Monday night when Tennessee beat them. And he had replaced Nick Saban. He took over under some very trying circumstances. And he now has a national championship at LSU. He has continued to recruit. I just think he's done a great job. There's the Tiger fans.
You know the most impressive thing about Les Miles? I remember him telling me last year that he met his wife in the parking lot when she was an assistant coach at Michigan. That's love and sports all mixed into one. Pass down to the 25-yard line. Chris Polk.
I'll tell you, if you're John Chavis, though, in this LSU defense, I'm nervous. I mean, I said, you know, the energy of Washington, the young skill players of Washington, but man, they have struggled tonight, particularly against the pass.
Locker completes it, and Polk took a hit, makes it down to the 9-yard line. If you're Washington, do you try and punch one in here, Bob?
Oh, are you kidding?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that sportsmanship thing where this year in college football that we're really stressing.
That's got me a little confused and sideways right now.
Yeah, you can see right there. We talked about John Chavis, the head coach of the defense. This has not been a real strong start right here for this LSU defense. And a defense that lacks confidence after what happened last year.
Next week it's going to be Vanderbilt for the Tigers. This Locker up and incomplete at the 3-yard line with 3 seconds to go. So they'll get one more play. It was intended for James Johnson, covered by Chris Hawkins. There's a look at Locker's numbers. 44 attempts on the evening.
Had the one critical interception that gave LSU the touchdown, Jacob Katera. But I think this crowd has to really appreciate, as you hear them come to life right here, the effort of this Washington football team.
Oh, the fans with a little sound of appreciation perhaps for the Huskies. And a touchdown as a reward. Middleton.
Now the question is, do you go for 2? He's going to go ahead and kick the extra point.
First touchdown catch of his career for Cavario Middleton.
And that young man has a bright, bright future as an NFL tight end.
The extra point good. This one is cooked, glazed, and sliced. The final verdict, 31-23. Jordan Jefferson, the precocious sophomore, leading his team to victory in a very tough environment. Sports Center's coming up next. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Bob Davie and our entire talented crew, I'm Mark Jones, saying so long from the University of Washington.